What it do? Jared Hoffman here. Another edition of the Better Than Less Than podcast. Appreciate everybody who is joining me, who will be joining me soon, whenever you're watching, wherever you're watching from. I appreciate everybody. I said my name already? If I didn't, I'm Jared. The Better Than Less Than podcast. If you can, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. Please subscribe to become a level 1 or 2 member to get some of the exclusive content from the HBCU Sports team. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Search us up, HBCU Sports. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, what's that other one? Blue Sky. Search up HBCU Sports. If you want to see our LinkedIn, we on there too. Search up HBCU Sports and you'll find us there. And you could always go to hbcusports.com for all the latest news in sports. If you see on this lower ticker down here, you can see where help donate to fund this operation. We are on Zelle. We're on Cash App. You can always hit the super chat if you're in the chat of these broadcasts, to help. This operation ain't cheap. These our writers, me and Chris Stevens and everyone, we gotta get paid. So you guys helping donate to the operation will be a great help. For those who are new here, the Better Than Less Than podcast is focused on Division II and NAIA HBCU. So all of my SIAC, CIAA, HBCUAC, and our independent friends like Zula, Lincoln, Missouri, West Virginia State, so on and so forth, Langston and all those schools, you can find all that content on this podcast. Now, if you want some of the MEAC and more, like our independent HBCU friends at the Division I level, like North Carolina A&T, Tennessee State, and who did I didn't say? Hampton, then you can watch the MEAC and more with Chris Stevens. He usually films that podcast on Wednesdays at noon. So you could tune into that. And we also have the SWAC page podcast, which is usually done on Fridays with the entire team of, Ken Rashad, me, myself, and Chris Stevens. Those are usually on Fridays. Times usually fluctuate, but it's generally on Fridays. But anyway, on to business. So we've had an eventful week in Division II HBCU football. The season unfortunately ended the weekend prior to last weekend, I believe. Yeah, because this last weekend was the Celebration Bowl, and the weekend before that, Albany State was unfortunately eliminated from the Division II playoffs after losing to Newberry in the regional final. So since then, we've had some coaching changes. Last week, we talked about Morehouse moving on from Terance Mathis after 3 seasons. And the other half of the AUC has now announced that they are moving on from their head coach, as Teddy Keaton is now on the head coaching market following news that he will be departing after just 2 seasons. On the official release, Clark Atlanta Athletic Director Dr. Jarrell Drew says in a statement, on behalf of Clark Atlanta University, I announced the departure of Coach Teddy Keaton, CAU head football coach who joined us in December 2023. His tenure included a remarkable 7-3-1 season in 2024, culminating in a championship appearance. We extend our gratitude to Coach Keaton for his leadership and contributions to our football program. We wish him the very best in his future endeavors. We will provide additional information regarding the future direction of our football program in the coming days. Thank you for your steadfast support of CAU athletics. To say this was shocking would be more than just an understatement. It blew my mind when I saw this. I thought it was a joke. I thought people were trolling. I thought this was AI. I thought this was Photoshop. I had no reason to believe this was real until I saw Clark Atlanta's official account send this out saying that this was real. And I'm going to say the same thing I said last week about Morehouse. If this is a firing, this might be the dumbest mistake of the offseason. Even more of a mistake than Morehouse moving on from Terance Mathis. The guy got you to your first in years. In his first year there, got you to an SIAC championship game, had you looking like a team that was going to be a threat to make it to Division II playoffs. Put together one of the most potent offenses in Division II football that year. Had a quarterback who was the SIAC player of the year before when he was at Allen. He brings him over to Clark Atlanta, and he does the same thing, if not more spectacular. Wins SIAC player of the year again, has a 1,000-yard receiver, and leads you again to your first winning season in I don't know how long. I don't understand how you let go of that coach. Yes, this past year was a down year, but you got to understand, Zy McDonald went through injuries. You were initiating Xavier Jackson into the offense. And by the way, Xavier Jackson played incredible given the circumstances. Armand Harris played spectacular given the circumstances. The record didn't reflect what he did in his first year. Absolutely, it did not. But the record also doesn't reflect the great play of the individual players. And not to mention, they were in a bunch of those games that they lost. Valdosta State, they took Valdosta State to the brink. And they absolutely should have won that game. So I honestly don't understand this. The only explanation for this is Teddy Keaton resigned and has another job lined up. That's the only thing that I can see that is plausible, that would make sense in this scenario. Because it doesn't make sense if this is just a straight up firing. It doesn't. I refuse to believe that this is a straight up firing. I refuse to believe that Clark Atlanta is willingly letting go of Teddy Keaton and allowing him to hit the coaching market. There's no way that's what this is. I gave Morehouse the benefit of the doubt. I want to give Clark Atlanta that same benefit of the doubt. I refuse to believe this is a straight up firing, because if it is, it's the worst move of the offseason, bar none. Not even close. It was head scratching to me too. All of us were scratching our heads when we saw that news. Shout out to Chris Stevens in the chat saying AUC looking foolishness with both firings. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt and saying that maybe they had other jobs lined up. Maybe that's what happened, because Morehouse is coming off one of its best seasons in 4 years. Its best season in 4 years, showing tremendous growth and actually looked like they were heading in the right direction toward becoming a competent team. They were still a ways away from contendership, but they were showing signs of being a competent team for the first time in a long time. And now you move on from the guy that had you moving in the right direction. And Teddy Keaton, I can't even explain that one. Yes, this was a down year. This was one down year. Mind you, you didn't have a guy that time SIAC player of the year, David Wright. You didn't have Jamal Jones, who was another one of your top receivers, who was also your top punt returner. You didn't have, I don't believe they had Virgil Young, who was another one of their top receivers, who was a big part of that champion, making it to the championship game in 2021. I would have to look that one up. But whether he was there or not, you still had to deal with so many different changes. Yeah, Virgil Young wasn't there this past season. So you got your leading passer from last year, 2 of your top receivers from last year. And by the way, the guy that was supposed to be replacing that quarterback, who is now gone, gets hurt in the middle of the year, and you have to start a freshman quarterback who played tremendously. And Also, let's talk about the fact that Armand Harris was in the transfer portal, had committed to Johnson C. Smith, but still found his way back to Clark Atlanta. I got a feeling Teddy Keaton had something to do with that. And you let that guy go. A guy that brought back a 1,000-yard receiver who was going to a Johnson C. Smith team that was supposed to be a juggernaut this year and turned out to be without Armand Harris anyway. He left a clear winning situation in Johnson C. Smith. A clear winning situation. Johnson C. Smith was going to be the go-ahead favorite to win the CIAA with or without him. And he left that guaranteed spot to be at home at Clark Atlanta. And I have to believe that Teddy Keaton had something to do with that. And you let that guy leave the building. Now, I'm genuinely hoping that this was a situation where you just couldn't meet him at where his price is in order to stay. Maybe somebody outbid them. That's what I am choosing to believe this is that somebody outbid him. And that there's another opportunity that he just could not pass up. If that's the case, it is what it is. But if this is a straight up firing and they allowed him to just hit the job market when you have an Albany State coach, by the way, we're about to get into the open coaching jobs at the Division II level. When you got Albany State that has an open coaching position, when you have Savannah State who has an open coaching position, when you have Morehouse who is an open coaching position, Howard has an open coaching position, and you allow him to hit the job market, that would not make sense to me. You're not going to get much better than Teddy Keaton. You're just not. And if you hire from within the staff, it really doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense if you hire from within his staff. You better have somebody on that Rolodex that is just going to turn the HBCU football world upside down. Because nothing would possibly make sense. But I think I've talked enough about that. Let's get into all of the other. Let's get to the tally of head coaching vacancies now. So we have Albany State. Oh, my bad. I jumped the gun. It's been made official. Let's get to that bit of news. The worst kept secret has now come to fruition. Coach Quinn Gray has officially announced his departure from Albany State. With all the news surrounding his name and the historic season from Albany State this past year, making it to the regional finals of the Division II playoffs, leading Albany State to a school record 12 wins this season. There was much speculation about, how long Quinn Gray was going to be around at Albany State. And it has now become official that he is departing. In a lengthy statement, Albany State Athletic Director Anthony Kelly, thanked Quinn Gray for his contributions to Albany State University and, wished him well on his future endeavors. Oh, my bad. Christine Kelly, my bad. Albany State Athletic Director Christine Kelly thanked him for his contributions and wished him well in his future endeavors. Anthony Kelly, who was named acting head coach, also thanked him in the official statement. And Quinn Gray posted a statement of his own to his Twitter account, thanking the Albany State community, thanking his players, thanking the administration, for accepting him and giving him an opportunity to coach college football. And that ended by saying it wasn't goodbye, but see you later. So after 3 seasons, it is officially announced that Quinn Gray is gone, and it's looking most likely that he will end up at Florida A&M. He was also linked to the West Georgia job, uh, but West Georgia recently announced that who they were hiring as head coach. So with that job being filled, it's now looking like that there is a way cleared for him to become the next head coach of Florida A&M. Just waiting for Florida A&M to make the official announcement. Don't know when that's going to happen, or we don't even. Well, technically, until they officially announce it, we don't know that they are looking at Quinn Gray. But I mean, we are all speculating that they are. It would make the most sense for Quinn Gray to be their next head coach, unless they just got somebody that is, like I said about Clark Atlanta, that is just going to rock the HBCU world. Unless Florida A&M got somebody like that on the horizon, I can't imagine that anybody but Quinn Gray will be the next head coach of Florida A&M, especially considering the last 2 Division II head coaches that were hired from Division I HBCUs clinched spots in the Celebration Bowl. So you can't really go wrong with Division II head coaches if you're the SWAC or the MEAC. It worked out well for South Carolina State. They've won the last 2 MEAC championships, and it's worked out well for, he was the HBCU head coach. He was a guy that led Valdosta State to a Division II national championship game. And he got them, and he guaranteed that he was going to get Prairie View to Atlanta, and he got Prairie View to Atlanta, being Tremaine Jackson, for those who weren't paying attention. So we'll see if, Quinn Gray is officially announced as the head coach of Florida A&M. But until then, Albany State will now be looking for its next head coach. With Teddy Keaton on the market, that's looking like a no-brainer right there. If you're Albany State, that'll be a great bounce back, unless Howard is looking to hire Teddy Keaton, which that would be a tremendous hire for Howard if you got Teddy Keaton to be your next head coach, unless they're also looking at some guy down in Richmond who just got Virginia Union to its 3rd straight CIAA championship game. Maybe they're looking at him. Maybe they're looking at the guy who beat Virginia Union, who led the team that beat Virginia Union in the CIAA championship game. Who knows? But Howard got itself some options. Albany State has its options, and we'll just see. It'll more than likely be after the holiday break. These teams will officially announce who their next head coach will be. But yeah, so now let's go to the official tally of head coaching vacancies at the Division II HBCU level. We got Albany State, my alma mater, Bowie State, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, and Savannah State. Now, of these jobs, I think probably the one that is, I don't know that any of these are really, you can really say is the best job available. But if I were to say that, I'd probably go with Morehouse. Because Albany State, much of the guys who were on that team are in the transfer portal right now. Isaiah Knowles is in the transfer portal. Tyant Weiss is in the transfer portal. Tyrell Gainey's in the transfer portal, more than likely following Quinn Gray wherever he goes next. Not saying that that's exactly going to happen, but it's more than likely that that's what's going to happen. Maybe not Tyrell Gainey, given the offers he's getting. I don't know that he will be one of those guys that follows Quinn Gray wherever he goes. But Isaiah Knowles and Tyan Weiss more than likely could be following Quinn Gray wherever he goes. Bowie, I think the talent is there, but most of the top talent that would have been there had Kyle Jackson been kept on at Bowie State has now subsided. I believe one of their top defensive backs from this season entered the transfer portal already. So Elijah McKenzie, I believe, is the yeah, you're absolutely right. Albany State has the best winning tradition of the open vacancies. Again, this bears repeating because it's not enough. Albany State has not had a losing season since 2001. They have not been below 500 in a season since 2001. When you talk about excellence at the HBCU football level, Albany State has been that. And I'll get to this question right here. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That definitely is a question. That definitely is a question, because moving on from your coach after you just had one of your best seasons in the past couple of years. So yeah, you kind of got me questioning whether that actually is. The reason why I said Morehouse probably has the best job is because most of their guys, I don't really expect them to be gone. Now I could be completely wrong about that. Hey, eye to watcher, from your keyboard to Bowie State's ears. I would love for this to happen. You talk about I would love for this to happen. Don't make me think that this is possible. Because if this happens, if I get this announcement, you're gonna want to tune in to the Better Than Less Than podcast after they make this announcement. If this does happen. Because you're gonna see a very happy Jared. Albany State's backup quarterback is pretty darn good. He had a nice lead on Newberry before they lost. Yeah. And by the way, that was his only game of the season. That was his only game of the season. And he's a true freshman. Let me get his actual name so I can actually give him credit for how well he played in that game. Stepping in for Isaiah Knowles, who was apparently hurt at some point before the game. Xavier Izzieri. I still don't know if I'm saying that right, and I apologize if I'm not saying that right. But Morehouse hasn't won in decades and seems like they don't have the patience. Has to be one of the worst jobs in totality. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're right. I don't even know why I was thinking Morehouse would be the next job, best job. The only reason why I thought maybe Morehouse could have been the best job is because, you would have the players in the building that were a part of going in the right direction. But now that I think about it, you're absolutely right. The administration, I don't know if you would have the next coach would have the support of the administration, or as you mentioned, the patience of the administration. So by that logic, you're absolutely right. Morehouse seems like they whoever they get next, they're gonna have to have some patience, because it's not gonna happen overnight. If they're expecting a Teddy Keaton in his first season with Carolina type year from whoever they hire next. They need to let go of that expectation. Unless their next head coach is Dr. Alvin Parker or Maurice Flowers, they need to let go of that expectation that Morehouse is going to be a championship contender. Because Morehouse has not been in a championship picture in a lot of the people who has been on that campus's lifetime. So they need to tamper their expectations because it's not realistic. It's just not. But in any event, we'll see where all of these schools we'll more than likely get announcements of these uh coaching vacancies in the next 2 weeks, probably in the first week of January. Next week is obviously Christmas. And the week after that, we'll have New Year's. So more than likely, the week after New Year's, we'll start to see some of these jobs getting filled. I can't imagine that we'll go into the second week of January without any of these. I believe by the second week of January, all of these coaching jobs will be filled. If they're taking seriously being a contending football program, they will have coaches by by at the latest the second week of January. If we're into the second week of January and one of these schools does not have a head coach, I'm gonna be looking at them sideways. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. Because National Signing Week will be about 3 or 4 weeks after that. And you're gonna want to hit the ground running in recruiting in not only in the Georgia area for the 4 Georgia schools on this list, the Maryland area for in Bowie's case, you're going to want to hit the ground running. So you got to have somebody for the recruits to latch onto. But we'll see what happens. I thought I had another sentence to say, but I didn't. But the last thing we'll talk about here is the American Football Coaches Association announced the Division II All-American team, and it features quite a few HBCU names, including the CIAA Player of the Year, Curtis Allen, and the CIAA Defensive Player of the Year, Kenyon Garner for Livingstone. Curtis Allen, obviously record-setting running back for Virginia Union, over 2,100 yards this season. I believe 30 touchdowns, something like that. A finalist for the Harlan Hill Trophy, was named Super Region 1's Offensive Player of the Year. It'll be announced tomorrow whether or not he will be the first HBCU player to win the Harlan Hill Trophy. It would be a long time coming after guys like Jada Byers, Amir Hall, Trenton Cannon have been finalists in years past, but the award just eluded Division II HBCU players. Curtis Allen would be the first to ever do it, and would probably warrant selection as the Deacon Jones Trophy winner. I've already gone on record saying that he would get my vote if I had one, but that's up to the Black College Football Hall of Fame committee to decide. Kenyon Garner for Livingstone, he had a spectacular sophomore season. 55 total tackles, 28 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. And is in a transfer portal right now and is getting some high-level offers. So I imagine that he will no longer be it's safe to say he will no longer be among the Division II ranks. And it's possible that he won't be at an HBCU at all, but he's getting some Division I high level Division I offers. So we'll see what his next move is. But congratulations to him being named to the Division II All American First Team. Joining him on the defensive side of the ball on the division on the All American First Team was Darnell Stevens, a Fort Valley State defensive back. He finished the year with 33 total tackles, 3 interceptions, and 19 pass breakups. I thought that was a typo. I thought that was wrong, but turns out yes, absolutely 19 pass breakups. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe he's also in the transfer portal. Um, yeah, so Darnell Stevens, congratulations, making it to the Division II All American team. And headlining the Division II All American second team are a pair of Johnson C. Smith players, DeAndre Proctor, top receiver for Johnson C. Smith, and Jamari Mason, one of the top offensive linemen for Johnson C. Smith. The Harlan Hill Award is expected to be announced tomorrow, I believe, at 10 a.m. Eastern time. That is when the Harlan Hill Award will be announced. We'll see if Curtis Allen becomes the first HBCU player to win the award. It would be pretty upsetting if he didn't win it. You know, with the incredible year that he had this year, the record-setting year that he had this year. Does HBCU sports follow the players who enter the transfer portal? Yes, we don't have an official tracker up, but we do make announcements as we see them. You know, when players commit or when we see players enter the transfer portal, and when we see players commit, we do report on it. So yes, we do follow the players who enter the transfer portal, but there is no official tracker on the HBCU sports site. Need to do something, as what they have done in the past 10 years is not working. Yeah, you're absolutely right. At some point, you got to understand that you're the problem. It wasn't Terance Mathis. He was doing a great job. You know, so Morehouse has to look within and say, what are we doing wrong? You know, is it our impatience? You know, are we expecting things to come quicker than it should? Or, you know, do we have the right people in the building to get the job done? That's the question that they got to answer. You know, but you're absolutely right. What they have done is clearly not working. And the change needs to be made. Now, and when people hear a change needs to be made, they always think about personnel. Sometimes personnel isn't the change that needs to be made. Sometimes it's mindset. Sometimes it's philosophy. That's personnel. You know, and I think that's the mistake that Morehouse makes, is when they feel like a change needs to be made, they feel like it's the personnel. They feel like it's the coaches that need to change. They feel like it's the athletic staff that needs to change. When it's really more patience that is needed. When it's maybe just the game plan that needs to change. Maybe it's communication that needs to change. But hopefully they can figure it out. I don't follow D2 football, but if Allen doesn't win, it's a robbery. It absolutely is for me. It would absolutely be a robbery for me. Now, granted, there are some quarterbacks that threw for some tremendous numbers this year. There are some guys that put up some tremendous numbers. I cannot lie. But the numbers that Curtis Allen put up are video game numbers. Video game. Let me just read it. Just 2409. That's the amount of rushing yards he had. Well over 600 yards more than person in second place. 30 touchdowns. That's about 9 more than the person in second place. I don't even know how many rushing yards per game that is. How many games did he play? 12? That's 200 plus yards per game. Yeah. 200 rushing yards per game. That's over 20 plus yards than the person. That's well over 20, 30 yards than the person in second place. And so that I'm not speculating, let's look it up. Rushing yards per game. $200 plus yards per game. The second place player has 172.3. Impressive. 200 plus yards per game in 12 games on 297 carries. And if you don't believe if that's not impressive enough for you, let's go for yards per carry. Yards per carry. 8 yards per carry on 297 carries. There are 3 guys ahead of him. One has 178 carries. One has 170. The other has 160. 8 yards per carry on 297. That is ridiculous. If he does not win the Harlan Hill Trophy, it is a problem. It is very much a problem. Is he a better NFL prospect than Byers? I'd have to say so. We'll have to look at the measurables. We're gonna have to look at his 40 time. We're gonna have to look at his vert and get those measurables. But in terms of the size, Curtis Allen his size is absolute. Jada Byers, I believe, was listed at 5'8", 5'9", like 175 or something like that. Curtis Allen is listed at 6'2", 215. Now, he's still going to have to put on a little bit more muscle to be better suited for the NFL. But at his current size right now, I feel like he has a good shot of making an NFL team. Either on the practice squad or on the active roster as an emergency back. So to answer your question, yes, I feel like Curtis Allen is a better NFL prospect than Jada Byers. And now, granted, even though Jada Byers' 40 time was slower than he would have wanted, he is quicker than what his 40 time says. Jada Byers is a guy that is very shifty, and his size is very deceiving. You know what I mean? So he is a guy that is stronger than what he appears. And that's why I feel like he will do well in the UFL. I believe he said he was signed to Memphis the last time when I spoke to him earlier. So although I feel like Jada Byers will do well at the UFL level, I feel like Curtis Allen, he has the size to be a serious NFL prospect and to get a serious opportunity in the NFL. So yes, I feel like Curtis Allen would be a better NFL prospect. Dr. Parker's name always pops up, and rightfully so, for MEAC openings, especially around the Virginia area. However, Dr. Parker is a biscuit away, in my opinion, from a Division II championship. I think he wants to win the Division II championship before rebuilding the MEAC program. I have it upon good authority that Dr. Alvin Parker has gotten calls from Division I football programs and would accept one if he were to be offered. You know, his associate head coach, Diego Ryland, has gone to bat for Dr. Alvin Parker, saying that the HBCU diaspora should start a revolution. Now that's paraphrasing. Those weren't his exact words. So though I'm paraphrasing right here, but that the HBCU diaspora should be very upset if Dr. Alvin Parker doesn't get a Division I coaching job. You know, but I have it upon good authority that he has gotten offers. He has gotten offers. He just hasn't been. I mean, he's gotten interviews, and he's been a finalist for some jobs, and nearly got one. I know for a fact that he has almost gotten jobs at the Division I level. It's just that he hasn't. They haven't moved forward with him as of yet. I have a feeling that it will happen sooner enough. If Howard was smart, they would seriously look toward Dr. Alvin. You know, but I think we finished talking about DeAndre Proctor was named to the All-American second team, finished with 932 receiving yards on 71 receptions and 10 touchdowns, was absolutely spectacular in the postseason for Johnson C. Smith. He had a case for being the CIAA championship MVP, had 146 receiving yards on 7 receptions and 2 touchdowns in that game. And then in the playoff game against Frostburg State, had 14 receptions for 139 yards and a touchdown. You know, so St. Augustine's football program folding was probably the best thing that could have ever happened for DeAndre Proctor, because he had a huge breakout year in the wake of Brevin Caldwell, you know, having a down year. And he really stepped up to the plate and gave Johnson C. Smith an opportunity to make history and win its first CIAA championship since 1969. You know, so congratulations to him for being named the Division II All-American team. Dr. Parker, Dr. Frazier, Maurice Flowers, Ron Dickerson, Quinn Gray, Felton Huggins, Teddy Keaton, Brian Jenkins, all outstanding candidates. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If Howard was serious about competing, they should absolutely look to one of these coaches. Now, I'm pretty sure Howard, you know, with the name that the institution has, you know, and the credibility that the institution has nationally, I'm pretty sure they're getting a wide range of candidates. But you cannot go wrong with any of the guys that you just named. You're absolutely right. Morgan State is known for to let their coaches coach to the end of their contract, so I expect that job will be open after next season. Yeah. And Damon Wilson is definitely somebody warranting of giving him his full contract to allow him to, you know, reach his full potential. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened for Morgan State like I and many others expected it to happen. You know, the talent has been there. It's just been unlucky. You know, the offense, you know, they've always been a quarterback away, and they just have not been able to find that quarterback to get them over the hump. You know, they've had injuries, particularly to the defense, that have held them back. You know, Eric Hunter had to sit out last season, and Elijah Williams had that historic season, but he didn't have his that linebacker, in E40 to help him out. They've always had the talent on the defensive side of the ball and on the skill positions on offense, but it's just that they could not find that quarterback. They just could not. So I definitely feel like Damon Wilson is coaching for his job next season. He's not coaching for his job, coaching for a new contract this upcoming season. Because I don't know if he will be long for that job. I definitely think they'll let him coach out his contract, but unfortunately, I don't know if he will get an opportunity beyond that. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in and contributing in the chat. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Better Than Less Than podcast. Appreciate you all. If you can, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Search up HBCU Sports and you will find us there. You can always go to hbcusports.com for all the latest news in HBCU sports. Hope everyone has a happy holidays. We're off next week. We're off the week after that. It's New Year's. It's Christmas next week, and then New Year's Day the week after that. So you will see me 3 weeks from now. So the Better Than Less Than podcast will be gone for a while. By the time we come back, we will be in the thick of basketball season, and we'll more than likely know about these head coaching vacancies. So I will be here to talk about that when that happens. But until then, I hope everybody has a happy and safe holidays. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the rest of your 2025. And hopefully the start of 2026 will be a blessing to you all as well. But until then, I've been Jared Hoffman. You'll also see me. I don't know if we're doing a show tomorrow. I'll have to talk to the team about that. See if we're doing a show tomorrow, and you'll see us on our streamathon. Where if you didn't watch the watch along for the Celebration Bowl, we are doing a 12-hour stream on New Year's Eve. So that's a part of our efforts to raise funds for the HBCU sports operation. So please, be a part of that. I'll be there for that. But as far as the Better Than Less Than podcast, it'll be 3 weeks until the next edition of that. But appreciate everyone's support. Appreciate everyone for watching along. Until next time, I'm Jared Hoffman. See you guys.